everything I told you up to now was about one chance of cheating. But of course, an important question is what happens when we give people more chances to cheat over time? So we created a task like that. We showed people some dots on the computer screen. And we asked them, are there more dots on the right or more dots on the left? Tell us which one has more dots. But just so you know, you're getting paid 10 times more if you say right. And this is kind of an equivalent to a conflicts of interest task. When you ask a doctor, for example, what's better for this patient, treatment A or treatment B? But you, the doctor, gets 10 times more if you say, let them go for treatment A. So what happened with these tasks, we could do many of them, hundreds of them over time. And what we saw was that many people started by cheating just a little bit. Cheating just a little bit. Feeling good about myself, cheating a little bit, feeling good, cheating a little bit. But at some point, many people switched. And all of a sudden started cheating all the time. And this switch happened to different people in different times. But it was very salient that there was this switch occurred. And the issue was, where is this switching coming from? And one of the thoughts we had was that maybe this is what we call the what the hell effect. If you think about it, if you're trying to feel good about yourself and cheat a little bit, and at some point you cheat too much, and you can't feel good about yourself anymore, you might say, forget about it, let me just enjoy it as much as I can and cheat all the way. And that's indeed what we see in the data. So if you have a little bit of cheating and then cheating a lot, and by the way, lots of people report that it happened to them in dieting. When you start a day and you decide to be good on your diet, then you eat a muffin or you eat something bad, you say, forget about it. I'll start tomorrow, I'll start next Monday. So if we have this pattern, when people cheat a little bit and then they switch to cheating all the time, we thought, what would ever stop people from cheating all the time? What would ever reset this fudge factor? And we went back and we thought about religion. And if you think about the Catholic confession, and I'm of course not Catholic, you can ask, what is the logic of the Catholic confession? Now, if you actually came to the Catholic confession from an economic perspective, you would say that if you can sin and get absolved, you should cheat more because you can get absolved. In fact, you should sin on the way to confession. If you want to minimize time in purgatory, the only thing you want is to cheat just before you confess. But of course, this is not what the religion thinks, and we went to talk to all kinds of Catholic priests about this. So if we don't think that confession increases cheating, how could it reduce cheating? One theory is that confession adds to the cost of the crime. You say to yourself, like in the Becker theory, not only do I have a chance of being caught and go to prison, but I have to talk to somebody and they would make me feel bad about it and let me recite something 1,500 times. That's not good, not worth it, let me not cheat. Not much evidence for that. We thought maybe what happened is that just like the Ten Commandment experiment, that the moment you get out of confession, you feel wonderful and pure, and you don't want to disturb that feeling. So for a little bit of time after that, you're behaving more consistent with the tenets of the religion. Or we thought maybe what's happening is confession is a particularly useful idea for resetting a new page. If you cheat all the time, why would you ever stop unless you can start a new page and therefore start again? So we tried experiments like this. People cheat a little bit, they start cheating a lot, then we stop them. Say, here's a piece of paper. Would you like to write something about something bad you've done recently? People wrote something and then we asked them to shred it. Then we gave them another sheet. We said, would you like to ask for forgiveness from whatever deity you believe in? Please write it down and shred it when you finish. What happened after people did both of those elements, saying what they have done and ask for forgiveness? Cheating went down dramatically. Now, regrettably, later on it went up again, but at least for a while, this idea of opening new pages seemed to be effective. And I think this is one of the things that we can actually take from religion. You can say, if religion has evolved to help men deal with some of our challenges, some of our fallacies, some of our weak points as human beings, what can we learn from religion, and should we incorporate similar mechanism in other places in society? For example, should we create a confession-like mechanism for citizens submitting the IRS? Should we create a confession-like mechanism for some of our politicians, for some of our CEOs? Is there something important in starting a new page and allowing people to all of a sudden reset the level of honesty and behave better? And of course, a big-scale version of this was the Reconciliation Act in South Africa, where they basically created this structure where people basically, in a very important public stage, both asked for forgiveness and started a new page. And apartheid is of course a complex, difficult thing, and it will take a long time for anybody to get over it completely. But it is taking these ideas of saying you're sorry and starting a new page that might be important not just in religion, but in civic society in many cases. Another question people ask me many times is, what about cultural differences? We travel around the world, we see all kinds of other cultures, some of us grew up in a different culture, and you can ask yourself, how is cheating different in different places? So we try this out. So I grew up in Israel, so the first thing I did was to try Israel. So what do you think? Do the Israelis cheat more or less than Americans? Actually, I'll tell you that when you ask most people whether they think that people in their home countries cheat more or less than Americans, most people think that people in their home countries cheat more than Americans, aside from the Canadian and the Northern European countries. And in general, when we ask people, what do you think, the Israelis cheat more or less than Americans, most people say that the Israelis probably cheat more, but the reality was not that. We found that the Israelis were cheating just the same as the Americans. Francesca, my Italian collaborator, said, you want to see cheating? Come to Italy. We'll show you what this cheating is all about. We went to Italy, we tried the experiment there, same results as in the States. We tried Turkey, we tried England, we tried Canada. So far we don't find any differences. Now we haven't tried everything, but so far we don't find any differences. Now, how can it be that on one hand, when you travel in other countries, or you grew up in another country, you feel that cheating in different countries is very different. On the other hand, we don't find it in our experiment. How would you balance these two views? Is one of them right and is one of them wrong? No, I think they're both correct, and here is what I think happens. Our experiments are basically without any cultural context. And therefore, they check the basic fudge factor. And the fudge factor is, in its basic, is something we all share. We can all rationalize about 15% of our actions in a slightly immoral way and still feel of ourselves as good people. So that's kind of the basic thing that is similar across many people. But culture is important. But what culture does, it doesn't change our morality across the whole range. It attacks a particular domain. Think about something like plagiarism, cheating on exams, university cheating. Different cultures have said, oh, this is really important, you can't cheat much. Other cultures have said, that's not a big deal, you can cheat more. Other countries have said, this is not a moral question. It's not a part of the moral domain at all. Cheating in this case is just like playing poker, don't worry about it. What about infidelity? Some cultures have said, oh, this is a real big issue. Other countries have said, this is not such a big issue. What about cheating on your taxes? Issue or not issue? Illegal downloads, buying fake counterfeit fashion products. So basically what I think is going on is that there is this basic fudge fact that we all share, but the way it plays out in different domains are influenced by culture, where the culture can either shrink or expand the fudge factor, and in some cases it can even take a particular behavior and say this is not a moral question. In some countries with high corruption, bribing a policeman is not something that is immoral. It is just, this is how you do business, and so on. So then we need to think about both about the basic fudge factor as well as about what the effect of culture is on top of that. I did find one experiment that showed a difference in cheating across cultures. Every time we do these experiments, it's important to conduct them in a similar way across different places. So what we do is we go to other universities and we check students, or we go to bars. And when we go to bars, what we do is we also adjust the payment scale. So $1 in the States is not $1 in India, it's not $1 in England, it's not $1 in Turkey. So what we do is we go to bars and we create a payment situation such that answering 4 questions would equal 1 glass of beer. So now this is kind of our international currency. Every 4 questions is a glass of beer. And the one place we found a difference was when we went to a bar in Washington, D.C., where congressional staffers hang out in. And then we went to a bar in New York where bankers hang out in. And the question is, which one of those 2 groups cheated more? Now, I have to admit that I expected the politicians to cheat more than the bankers, but the results were the opposite. The banker cheated twice, 2-1. But I do have one word of caution, which is these were congressional staffers. So these were junior politicians, and maybe over time there's room for growth in terms of their dishonesty.